Let me know when we're going.
Hurry. Let me know when we're on.
Let me know when we're on. Because I'm going to say some terrible stuff right now that will be used against me. Oh, no, you don't have to sing. I mean, you can if you want. No. I'm sorry. Welcome to Two Guys with Guitars. Believe it or not, this time it's Two Guys with Guitars.
It's actually Two Guys with Guitars.
And we actually have a show this week. Yeah. Now, I want to let you guys, everyone know.
We were on strike.
We were on strike. We were on strike.
Yeah.
I didn't eat grapes, and he didn't write any bad sitcoms. So we're very, very staunch.
No.
Yeah.
And we've always been paid poorly, even in prior decades. So there really was nothing for us to say, hey, I liked it better the old way.
Yeah, and our self-esteem doesn't allow us to demand for more.
No, God,
we're not
kidding?
Yeah. Why do we play guitar?
We don't have that kind of therapy bill.
Dig. I'm Eugene Edwards right over here, and that's Dr. Dylan Caligiuri over there. Now, I want to let you know, we are pre-taping this show a little earlier today, and it's now being run at 5 o'clock. So please enter comments by all means, and we will get to them later on, but we won't be responding to your comments and questions live because we're in fact not live.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm sure there's a bot for that.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Oh, you're right. We should get a bot for that. And Daniel's in London.
Daniel's in London. Werewolf and
yeah.
Yeah.
No, what key is that in?
That's our key.
No, I don't.
Well, here's insert. There it is. Da-da-da.
By the great Warrens of Vaughan. Safe travels to you, Daniel. I hope you enjoy your time in merry old England. I'm a big fan of London myself. England in general. I'm an Anglophile, as they say.
Yeah.
I want to thank. I know we were dark last week because you were somewhere.
I was out of town.
You were out of town. And then the previous week, our good buddy Angie, she covered for me, and you guys did a fabulous job together.
Yeah,
I thought you guys were really,
a lot
really
of facts
funny.
in that show. A lot of hard-hitting journalism.
Which is good because when it's the two of us, it's mostly just a Laurel and Hardy gag, and and all of our information's wrong.
Very little information. Yeah.
But it's fun. It's fun
Right.
information.
Right. I agree.
And I've been on the road a lot. It's summertime, so I think we get a lot of I'm going to be in Laguna Beach tonight playing an arts festival, and I have to be there at 4 o'clock, and that's why we're taping the show early. So I want to thank you for accommodating the schedule, by the way.
Now, I heard yesterday that the ocean outside of Florida, two buoys, showed 101 degrees as the ocean temperature.
That's the water's temperature.
That's the water.
See, now it's time to go in the ocean, everyone.
And boil.
Well, yes,
101 degrees.
Lobsters are just floating.
It was
to
the
top.
highest in human history.
In human recorded history.
Yeah, so that could be an issue.
Yeah. Well, no. Here's the thing. Now, this is a couple of weeks ago. I took my daughter. We went to the beach.
Yeah.
Now we both love swimming in the ocean.
Well, yeah.
Problem is, historically, it doesn't matter how cold the water is. She's in it.
Wow.
I don't like that. I don't. You do like the whole polar bear plunge and stuff. You do all this stuff. I don't get anything out of that.
For years now.
So, but here's the good news. My daughter, bless her heart, she's been working out a lot lately.
Right.
She's in really great shape.
She's a young gal,
which means she's dropped her baby fat. And I didn't count on this. So all of a sudden, she says she took a few steps in the water. She goes, "Nope,
it's
too
chilly.
cold." She's too cold. I said, "Since when?" She goes, "Since I dropped a lot of weight." She wasn't even heavy. She says, "No, Dad, I don't have baby fat anymore. That's not fun." And I thought, this is a whole new leash on life for me.
Welcome.
This is the best news I've ever heard.
Yeah, the next step is just actual adult fat.
And I got plenty.
Right,
so I usually don't go in the Pacific Ocean until like mid-August.
Right.
September's great.
Yeah, it starts to really get up to like almost 60.
It's still people forget it is hot in LA right up until the week before Thanksgiving. Truly,
it stays hot for a long time.
It stays hot for a while.
It takes a long time to get hot.
The ocean's not the ocean. June is not great. It's June gloom. It's not a great time to be in the weather. What's all this got to do with guitars? Nothing.
Well, I mean, they're temperate animals.
Okay, there you go.
There are conversations.
You don't want to say something. Tell me about this guitar. I'm playing. This is one of your guitars.
Yeah. So this is a.
Just listen to this thing while
Go
you
for it.
listen.
Yeah. So John Suhr, I believe, was a designer for Fender for many years, and he broke off, defected, much like a German or a Russian warship or something. He defected away and started making guitars, and they're very expensive guitars, I should mention. They're extremely expensive. They're the type of guitars that you ask for 10-year financing for, But golly, don't they play well. They sure do. and they tend to just stay in tune permanently. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Show them the out of phase pickup.
So dig this. So I'm on the middle. Oh, okay, here we go. Out of phase. By the way, when I go out of phase here, I'm going to play like Mark Knopfler for a reason, because I think by after the third Dire Straits album, he has a Pensa Sur Strat, a red Strat, and I think we hear that guitar on the Brothers in Arms album. Actually, it's not a Fender Strat anymore. It's a Sur Strat. So this is the out of phase. This is what do you call this? Position 2 or 4?
Position 2.
Position. Okay, so here's position 2.
Kind of sounds like a middle position telly almost. Yeah. Okay. Now go to the neck position on there. Now you can coil tap the neck position.
So I want to wait. Oh,
if you want to, but you don't have to. Obviously.
Okay. So this is a really cool little trick. Yeah. Where you? Now notice something.
And we have Rex on the tambourine over there, so that's great.
Oh, he's great. So I actually rolled the tone pot back. I was in the neck. Well, it's a humbucker. I just noticed. I rolled because no matter what selection, there's this high, nice crystal sheen to the guitar. It's got. It might be like. Am I wrong? 5K, 7K, like somewhere in that EQ, or is that a little too high?
It's like 4 to 6.
It's pretty.
It's actually.
But to this telly player, that's really attractive. So. But notice, now, let's say I'm in like position 2.
Right.
I'm out of phase, right? I'm just. Let's say it's my turn to play lead, and I want to go to the bridge pick, but I don't have time. There's this little black button. See the little black dot right there between the volume pot and the pick. If you press down, it automatically goes to the bridge.
Goes to Candyland.
Yeah. So I'm playing. I'm out of phase, position 2. Here I come.
What?
It's like I switched guitars. That's a really nifty trick, boy, I tell you.
And that kind of tone, so the guitar plays so well that you can actually play with a lot less distortion and kind of shred if you want to. And that's one of the advantages of it is that but it does take a lighter touch, which is harder to get used to when something plays really well.
No, I noticed it. In fact, I was going to say before we went on air, I found myself, the more I play this guitar, the less I want to use a pick.
Right. It's so light touch.
Because the light touch, and I want to soften the attack so it's not too spiky.
Right.
Or I would use maybe a lighter pick. But it really encourages. And now this says something. Certain guitars, you pick up a certain guitar, and for me, like this guitar, for instance, I'm inclined to not use a pick. This happens with some acoustics sometimes. I just feel like I don't feel like I should be using a pick with this guitar. Or some guitars, you have that one guitar, where it's like, I'm always in the neck pickup. I've never used the other pickup. You just like that one setting.
A lot of tellies like that. A lot of deluxes.
Why leave? Why leave? And I think I think the reason with this guitar, I feel as though I can at least enumerate or detail why I don't want to use a pick. And I think because the pickups have such a natural attack.
They're
the
just
fundamental.
hot.
They're
like
really
super
hot.
round. Yeah.
And you're right about and they're hot in terms of output. So so then I don't feel like I need to dig into this guitar whatsoever, which is really, really. There's other guitars, maybe the pickups are kind of underwound, and you have to dig in, and that's fun.
Yeah. Well, here's where this becomes an issue if you're not used to this, is when you play live. Because whatever you practice at your house, if you play live, you're going to play adrenaline pumps and you're going to play harder.
Oh, right.
You play way harder. So if you have like a guitar that has potential fret out, for instance, like in its setup, when you go to play live, you're going to fret out for sure. I mean, you're going to be like, where's the go button on this thing? You know?
Right.
Because you're going to play harder and it's actually going to get quieter because it's starting to fret out.
Interesting.
And, so it's really kind of you kind of have to set your guitar up to be able to play hard live, and then when you're at home and you're in a lower sort of intensity situation, it's going to feel a little bit more challenging. But at least,
you know, y'all have? I know that I have. I don't know what else to call it, but I call it like the couch guitar. There's kind of that.
Oh, that can be. You can get right there on a couch guitar.
I'm saying, I mean, like for me. It's the Acoustasonic of all things, which is like the most overqualified couch. But I hardly ever plug in my Acoustasonic. I think because it's so light and easy to play, it's the guitar that's just always on the couch.
Yep.
If I'm sitting down watching a ball game,
you can hear it enough.
Way to go, Dodgers in that extra inning last night against the Blue Jays, by the way.
Wow.
But or if I get a song in my head, it's like, oh, what are the chords to that? That's the one I just grab, you know. And so for some people keep like a 3/4 guitar.
Yeah.
Some people have a nylon string guitar, so it's easy on the hands. You just sort of that's the one you noodle on all the time. For me, it's the Acoustasonic.
They're gentle,
but you're right. I relatively low action on that guitar. I never dig in on it.
Right.
If I'm just like I want to record an idea and I hit voice memos on my phone, and I'm just gonna there's no need to dig in.
Right.
But the guitars on the Dwight gig.
Yeah, they're pretty high action.
I mean, relatively, because I play really hard. There's thousands of people out there, and we're really loud. I'm Ubangi Stomp is what I am.
You know, before we get off of that, show them the coil tap.
What's that?
So if you pull out the tone knob.
Oh, I didn't even know I had that.
Right. So this would give you a whole another combination of a new humbucker, which is half of the existing humbucker.
So I'll go to the bridge. So I'll go to the bridge humbucker, right?
Yeah.
Let's hear that.
I don't know if the coil taps out. Let's see. I'm not sure. It doesn't. It's only the bridge pickup.
Okay, so now only the bridge.
Only the bridge, yeah.
Wait, I was on the bridge.
Neck. Final answer.
Bye. Okay.
Lock it in, Regis.
So here we go.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Man.
Wow.
You might only need that, actually, for the...
So I like this because it's got this real nice twangy...
All right, now I'll do the same thing, and you use the.
Okay, so now I'm going to be pulled out. Wait, sorry.
So
I rarely get to use.
Do me. I want to show everybody this one trick. So use the bar, play these two notes. So you got G and C. Now depress the bar like a half step bend or maybe almost a whole bend, and go. That's from a Michael Jackson song.
How do you know that, Dylan? Okay, so talk about this guy. We're talking about the construction of songs. That's an actual topic we'll hit today. But before we do that, I want to talk about gigs for a bit.
Gigs.
You've been playing a lot with a Michael Jackson tribute show.
Yeah, which, normally I don't know that I would necessarily talk about that too much, except that this guy is so good at it.
It's pretty scary.
That it's kind of a bit of an undeniable situation.
Yeah. So now, I assume, I assume you guys do beat it.
Yes, we do.
And you do the Eddie Van Halen solo.
Yes, I have to.
And the Steve Lukather main part.
Yep.
I guess would be that. What else about guitar parts on Michael Jackson's catalog? Was there anything that surprised you when you're like, because you have to study for the gig, obviously, right?
Yeah. So it's, I guess one of the things that surprised me, it's a rhythm and blues gig. I mean, and I kind of figured it was, but not even to the extent that it is. I mean, it's really, there's a few rock songs that he's famous for, and then the rest of it is a flat out rhythm and blues gig.
So do you use a Strat style guitar mostly?
Yeah, I use that guitar.
You use this one right
Yeah,
here.
like mostly on the out of phase position. And so if you had
like the Billie Jean.
See,
Is that kind of popcorn picking?
yeah, but on that guitar, it's got like a super high brilliance on it.
Position 2 or 4?
2. I'm doing a different key. It's whatever that song's called. I can't think of the name of it offhand. Melting like a hot candle wax. Is the lyric. Don't stop till you get enough. Final answer. Print it.
I had to run through the
Lock.
lyrics too. Yeah. Everyone out there was just like, you idiots.
You
It's like
guys
Wheel of
don't
Fortune.
know what you're doing.
I can solve it now.
Here's a great one. It goes. It's
Whoa.
It's Off the Wall.
That's still my favorite album.
Yeah,
of his.
dude.
The Off the Wall album.
Incredible guitar work.
As amazing as Thriller is and as big as it was, Off the Wall is still kind of the magical one to me.
So Thriller, the lick. Now there's another guitar that plays a part. It goes, and they play off of each other, and it's really awesome, dude. So if you go,
What do you want me to play?
It should be F. So you. And so, like, me and the other guitar player lock in really tight.
Yeah.
We're like some of the strongest players in the band. And so it's just alarm clock playing, you know, like, hey, you know.
That's
that
great. Interlocking guitar parts. That's a topic.
Yeah.
We'll have to give it.
Average White Man Band, or we can do.
Oh yeah, that's a good
be a
point.
great
Yeah.
one to do, yeah.
So now let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about songs.
Yeah.
And
Songs.
it's funny because
We made it.
When you do like a Michael Jackson cover gig or any sort of gig where you have to learn material. And I remember we had somebody ask a few weeks or a couple months ago, you know, like they had to learn a lot of material really quickly and they were looking for tips on that. And we had a couple of suggestions, but obviously you want to have some time with the material. And just like when you're learning, let's say you're learning a guitar solo, okay, let's say it's 8 bars of something. Inevitably, if you get the tab to it, we usually learn about measure by measure. Or lick by lick, maybe phrase by phrase, right? But the idea is that we break a solo down into its little parts, and then we sew them together basically until we have a very smooth performance. Same thing would go for songs. Now, fortunately, with songs in pop music, country music, rock music, blues, you know, fortunately, certain parts of the song will come back and repeat themselves.
Yes,
this buys us a lot of time.
Yes.
So for most songs, if you learn the first verse, the chord changes to the first verse, you're covered for
You're going to get to use them again.
For verse 2 and verse 3.
Yeah.
Same thing will go for the chorus. Once you've learned the chorus, you're probably going to repeat that. So this is good news, but it does help us memorize a song. It helps us understand songs. And then hopefully at some point it helps us write our own songs when we understand the structure of songs, how we can identify different parts. And at the end of this, I just want to go over some of the parts. It might sound really pedantic, but I want to talk about how they function, why they exist. Some songs don't even bother with most of these parts. We'll talk about that too. And then I want you to think after the episode about some of your favorite songs you've heard over and over and over again. And, you know, just take a little piece of paper and scratch, oh, that's the intro. And and actually go ahead and dissect one of your favorite songs, if you will. Break it into parts. Now, most songs start with
They start with an introduction.
And then we shorten that because we're musicians and we can't afford to say the entire word introduction.
Intro.
We call it an intro.
Get paid by the letter.
That's right. And then we have to go on strike because we're not making enough. No, with a song, intros are rather magical. Like I get a little entranced when I hear a great intro. A lot of classic songs. Here's a classic. Here's a classic intro here. I mean, this is one. The second I go into this, we all know this. So obviously, and it's great when you hear the session tapes of Brown Eyed Girl.
He's a great guitar player.
Great guitar player,
Yeah,
the guy
like,
on the session.
Great stuff in there. All over the place.
I'm blanking on his name.
I know. I remember his name too.
Because Eric Gale Sr. is playing bass, and Eric Gale was a session guitar player in New York. But on that date, he picks up a bass.
Yeah.
And plays very actively. By the way, he plays like a guitar
does
player.
He play actively?
They even give him
on
a solo.
That bass. They're like, take it, because he's gonna take it anyways.
He's gonna hit Eric.
Take it away.
But it's funny because the guitar play, that intro does not exist on that day. Van Morrison doesn't come in and say, "Oh, it starts like this." He just comes in. Hey, where did we go? He just, that's just that. Here's the song. So you hear the guitar player kind of, this slight Latin feel is happening in the rhythm. And I think the player picks up on this and thinks, are these tenths?
Those are sixths.
Sixths. He's playing these dyads, these sixths, and he just kind of creates this little melody. And it's just lovely. And of course, every guitar player that's in every wedding band wants to probably find this guy and kill him at this point. But that's a shame because it's a darn good intro. There was a great session guitar player out of Memphis and then eventually Nashville named Reggie Young. He passed away just a few years ago. I talk about him a lot. And all the session players said, we never, after a while, you just didn't even worry about an intro. You just figured Reggie will have something.
Right.
Give me the intro to Son of a Preacher Man. Reggie Young.
Is that him?
That's Reggie Young. Now, by the way, notice how hip this is. You were, you fret. The harmonic kills me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Like just that idea is so novel. And by the way, for years, I thought that was like a Wurlitzer or a Fender Rhodes. I didn't even realize it was guitar.
Well, it's really, really like subtle and smooth, and there's not a lot of guitaristic elements in the way he's attacking
vibrato.
It.
Yeah, honestly, that's why that harmonic it feels like it's like the right hand of a piano player of an electric keyboard just like reaching out and playing there. But here's another of his intros. Oh.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
So he has the intro on Suspicious Minds. Another one is there you go. Respect by Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, man.
He's got that intro, and we only hear it the once. They don't really repeat it. It's not a hook. It just gets us in, right? It just gets us into the song.
Yeah, it's never anywhere else in the song.
Nowhere else in the song. Drift Away.
Oh, jeez. All right.
And now we're in the song. Dobie Gray comes in on Drift Away. That's Reggie Young. So listen, and obviously George Harrison always had always like first couple of measures of most Beatles songs had some sort of presentation. One of my favorites is.
Oh man, that's a great one.
Ooh, I need your love, babe. But that fades in. I think it was the first record to have a fade in.
Yeah.
But also this is really hip because the chords of the song are D, E major, G. That's the verse. So he uses those chords but doesn't play them in first position. He kind of figures out a riffy thing to do with it. And not that George would have named it, but does he not create a Dorian lift there? That.
So that's a Lydian lift.
It's a Lydian.
Because we're in major already.
Oh, yeah, a Lydian lift. There you go.
Yeah.
Now and then that will come back. We'll hear it again at the very end of 8 Days a Week. So typically your intro, a lot of times, will eventually be the outro to a song, but we'll talk about that. So, Dylan, favorite intros? Like, just like growing up, like, as
Yeah.
you was like, I love her. Were there any intros that really captivated you?
So that's not featured anywhere else in the song, or can it be featured?
It can be
anywhere else?
featured elsewhere.
So I would say definitely this one. I mean, when you're a child.
Good
you know.
call.
The other one, let's see.
Oh.
That's that song. That I used to love that intro. What was it? It's which is, you're not the one you're thinking of. It's the Beastie Boys song. You gotta fight, damn it, for your right. Kick it.
Yeah, it's a great intro.
I know. It's
Yeah,
like,
actually,
it's
you're right.
ridiculous, but
It's great. With the kick it and then the way those drums come in.
Yeah.
That's a great intro.
Now, one last one. This may be the most simplistic intro in history.
I love this. All
But
right.
it's I mean, so it's like the fact that you get the 4 count off, and then there's like
this
4
way.
beats. It's like we're going live in 5,
Okay.
4.
Now, so that's you point out something very important about an intro. An intro can do a lot of things, right? It usually will announce the key of the song.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might hear a snippet of the chorus melody.
Sure.
You can kind of tip. You can kind of like tip to the future a little bit about what's about to come in. It can establish a groove.
Yeah. Like we're straight there. It's pretty obvious. Like
Right.
we're not gonna be swung or anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
The best and like the 8 days a week intro, usually it's great if it creates a sense of suspense, of presentation of something's about
tension.
Tension, exactly.
It's a tension.
The group, the band, the Animals, the British rock group from the '60s, they tend to. I don't know if it was a producer or who had the mind, but a lot of their songs have very definitive intros. Like "We Got to Get Out of This Place" starts with that great ominous bass line. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that now.
The heart of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
city. It just kind of established, or "Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood." Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
Song
dun.
cracks me up. It's like the Lone Ranger song, you know?
Yeah, but yeah, you kind
It
of
really does crack me up.
But so let us know in the comments some of your favorite intros and what you love about them. And like I said, we'll circle back in the next couple days and come back here and we'll respond to you.
We didn't do the
Talk about Dire Straits. Oh, let me hit the button.
yeah. Futuristic MTV.
Oh, here's one. I'll be doing this song later tonight. This one, a sneaky, powerful intro, one that kind of gets people excited, but we don't really talk about a whole lot.
Oh man.
But it's when you can just hit 3 strikes of an octave D, basically, right? And you wait. It's like, oh, they're playing American Girl. Sneaky, powerful cover.
I need a bass intro.
There you go.
But yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah. So now, after the intro, we usually hear a verse.
Yes.
And so how do we define a verse? A verse, I'm going to loosely define it. Usually what happens in a verse is we have a set of lyrics, and it's usually going to tell a story or describe a situation, but it's going to use a series of words that kind of...
they're narrative words. But so verse, the term itself comes from a prose term.
There you go.
That's like prose, right? And
Poems.
Then the entire concept of our song form comes from German Lieder, which is like turn of the century. Like Schumann wrote a lot of Lieder, and it was sort of a strophic form that came out of not sort of, it is a strophic form that came out of the operatic beat of that period of time.
Okay.
So they started writing. You might notice in opera there's like a leitmotif, and we've done this for television shows where a character comes in and you hear the same music for them every time, maybe in a different light.
When we were all kids, we were Peter and the Wolf was the classic.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Right.
Or any Disney movie. would be a good example. But so the verse is really going to be a narrative portion of the song, which is why it tends to, like, people notice that they can tune out or they don't know the lyrics as well of a verse because they're in narrative form. They're not in repetitive form.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the idea, because we'll probably repeat things in a chorus, but we're not there yet. So the verse kind of sets up the details. Now in country music, the verse is where
somebody gets, a dog dies.
Well, Dolly Parton describes this coat that her mom had to sew from different fabrics.
That's a great song.
Right, it's just a brilliantly written song, but it's very detailed, and that's a real typical country thing to do.
Jolene has got like a ton
very
of lyrics.
detailed,
It's
yeah. Because that's the country tradition, is that you tell a very specific narrative story. This comes from the Scots, Irish, Celtic tradition of, there were these really long song forms. And I've said before, until 1927, the Bristol recordings, when they had the session in a hat factory, and they invited people from all parts of Appalachia and all over. It was like, I think it was like $25 a song. Good money.
Wow.
But it was because these two guys, they knew that music was happening out there.
Yeah.
That was not on record. Up until on a 78, you're going to hear opera, basically. That was the only thing. But so they got all these rural Americans to come forth and record songs that they have been doing on their front porches or in the fields up until then. Problem is, they're cut them direct to a wax.
Yeah, they're limited in the amount of content they can put on.
So people would come in with these 15-verse
We're
murder
gonna
ballads.
have to litter that down. Yeah.
You have to whittle it down to get it done. You got to get to to 2.5, 3 minutes, which is where we get our modern song length. Was to the technology demanded that. I know I've gone on about this before. Any hoozles. So you get this kind of detailed thing in the verse, and in the verse we usually have a chord progression. Now this is really where, again, if we're learning a lot of material, you want to kind of diagram the song, find your key center. If it's country or pop music, usually the 4 or 5 is going to be pretty diatonic. Keep your eye out for any tricky chords.
Yeah.
But let's say like in the Beatles' Here, There, and Everywhere, there's an intro, but it's not musical. It's actually kind of like a pre-verse song. To lead a better life, I need my love to be here. Then the verse starts. Here, making each day of the year.
Which is just the family of chords going up from chord to chord. There's nothing strange at all. Now we get into some trouble because we're doing a secondary dominant to another dominant, and finally our 3 chord for
So he describes his woman, how much he loves her, and the solace he gets from her. So that's kind of an idea of a verse. Another great verse would be, say, like Hotel California. Also great evocative intro, cycles through the chords basically, but over on that 12 string, and it's kind of a chilling effect. But once Henley comes in, those drums, bop bop, on a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. Notice the details, right? Painting the picture. He's on his way somewhere. Okay. And then now after the verse, usually we'll go to the chorus. Now some songs go straight to a chorus. Other songs have what we call a pre-chorus. Some people call it a bit of a lift.
Preliminary chorus. It's like a preliminary hearing right before you receive your charges.
This is where you just say guilty, but with an explanation. And then the chorus is the explanation.
But see, I didn't know. And maybe they won't show up to court.
Now in a pre-chorus, what happens is usually it's usually done as a transition, I guess, from verse to the proper chorus. And the most successful pre-choruses usually create
They're a lift, baby.
They're a lift.
They lift you up.
And a really great one, Cheap Trick's song "Surrender" has this great pre-chorus to it, in my opinion, simply because it very fundamentally it uses the 4 chord, then the 5 chord, then the 1 chord to set up this powerful chorus as it comes. So we're in the key of B natural. Another day, Indonesian junk going round. Mommy's alright, daddy's alright, we just need a little real. Okay, so but that pre-chorus is great because he continues singing over it with details borrowed from the verse, but it's setting up the overall advice of the song, this kind of big brother advice, kind of like, I know they're a pain in the ass, but just let them be. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
I love this song so much. But that's a great classic pre-chorus because you
It's
feel
a
it.
flip of the verse, the chords of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's 1, 5, 4,
And then
4, 5, 1.
yeah.
It's not rocket science, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's the simplicity of the thing. And by the way, you're right. Not complicated chord structure, not a
No.
complicated melody, because the song has a lot to say.
There's a ton of lyrics in the
Really
song. Who can
wa-
remember all these and just forget the chords? You're
really-
lucky I'm playing it all.
They really want you to pay attention to what this teenager's going through, right?
Yeah.
And again, a lot of details. So so that's a great pre-chorus. And again, give us examples of pre-choruses you love if you can identify them. You know, a lot of ELO songs tend to have a pre-chorus. There's always some sort of, usually 4 bars, maybe even 2 bars of just a little transitional period there.
Yeah.
It's a classic pop thing to do. Otherwise, some songs just slam.
A lot of
right
songs
in.
that were made in the studio have a pre-chorus.
Why do you think that is?
Because there's a producer involved and they're bringing all their tools to the table. So Desmond Child songs and songs where Aerosmith songs, things where they had like studios with a lot of money and everybody's involved in the song making process.
Can I tell you a story? I just told this story the other night
Is this an
privately.
Aerosmith story? Is that what?
No, it's a Desmond Child story.
Oh, a Desmond Child story. Okay.
So some years ago,
This is, do you guys have?
so
okay.
Desmond Child is a songwriter.
Yeah.
He wrote "Living on a Prayer."
He wrote a ton of
"I Was Made for Loving You," but for Kiss.
Yeah.
I could go on and on. So so I was playing a rap party for a friend of mine who's a TV actor, and so it's just the cast and crew from the TV show. So we're having a private party, and earlier that day, my friend, the actor, says, Desmond Child is going to be here, and he's probably going to come up and do some of his songs. And I'm thinking, oh, like what? He goes, well, like "Living on a Prayer" and "Angel," which was right. I think was that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like one of the Aerosmith ballads.
Yeah.
One of the ones
it's
that Diane.
Crazy.
Yeah. One of the ones that Diane Warren did not write, Desmond Child did. So I do a quick study. I want to make sure I've got just give a listen to it. Write out a little Nashville number chord chart thing.
Oh, you're in trouble.
We talked about, and we went over the groove and figured out what the intro was. Okay, when Desmond comes up, but at least we have an idea.
Did he stop it live?
So Desmond comes up, and he goes up to the keyboard, and
There's a wind in the room.
and it's sort of like he just before we could even talk about who's going to start the song or tempo or anything, he just starts playing chords on the piano. Now, but watch me. He's doing this. He can only play in these quarter note. And first song was "Living on a Prayer." Johnny has his work on the dock, or whatever that first line.
Oh my!
It was, and he's singing like this, and I can't. What key is he in? It was so no, and then we're all just staring and trying to play along, and it was really difficult. By the way, I can tell the story because Desmond went home and slept on a pile of cash afterwards.
Yeah. Desmond.
My friend,
jumped
the
into his penny
actor
pool.
who was playing drum, it's Stamos, was at the drum kit. He's as surprised as anybody. So then Stamos, thank God, calls the elephant in the room and just stands up and gets his mic. It's a good thing other people do your songs, Des.
Yo!
Oh, we all had a laugh.
You know,
That's the story. That's the story. Okay, so then we get.
he was out of practice. You know, he's a racehorse, and you can't leave him in the, in the stockyard for too long. And so,
Yeah,
that's
you're right.
all.
Yeah,
It's not a big deal.
he's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
So, and then later on, I met a young guy, a young singer who works a lot. Like Desmond's a bit of a mentor as a songwriter, right? And I started to tell this story. And he stopped because he didn't go up and try to perform, did he? I thought, I guess you kind of can fill out the rest of the story. So Desmond, not known as a performer, right?
I think he's more of a prose writer, actually, though. I don't know that he was ever.
Yeah. I mean, not meaning he writes. He's more of a lyricist than a.
Yeah. Well, we got off, didn't we?
But we did, didn't we?
You know?
But that's what we do. So now we get to the chorus of a song. Give me a classic chorus. Just anything like to you, like here's like can't miss it. Here's because I'm thinking of
You really went for it, huh?
I can't sing it, but Born in the USA, the guy just sings that phrase over and over again. Sweet Home Alabama.
Because it's got those little licks in it. Everybody can sing it. Yeah.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama. Like, you know the chorus, and we all sing along, and it's a real simple thing. You repeat Sweet Home Alabama, where the skies are so blue, Sweet Home Alabama. Lord, I'm coming on home to you.
You know what a good pre-chorus is? Let's see.
Is that Rick Springfield? Oh, don't stop believing.
So it's really just the verse, but played like openly.
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's a really good example.
It's a really good one. Yeah.
Jesse's Girl has a great chorus, right?
So. Jesse's girl. Jesse's girl. I can't find a woman like that. Something like that.
Boom. Just repeats Jesse's Girl, right? And so sometimes I kind of think at this point, like the verse was giving you a lot of details. Sweet Home Alabama, a lot of words in those verses, really giving a sense of place and describing a place and a time. And then when the chorus comes around, it's almost like all this is to say.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama.
The moral of the story is, and it sits right there in the chorus, like Born in the USA does, where he details how the guy got drafted into Vietnam, what happened to him, and he's detailing his personal story. But then the chorus is just Born in the USA, Born in the USA.
And isn't it interesting that Born in the USA is interpreted as a jingoistic patriotic song?
It was.
When in fact it's not that it's not patriotic. It's just sort of quite,
pretty bitter. I mean,
pretty bitter. Yeah.
From this character's view, the country that he came back to after serving Vietnam turned its back on him.
Yeah.
There's no work.
It's a my left foot.
There's the great line about I had a brother at Khe Sanh fighting off the Viet Cong. They're still there. He's all gone.
Yeah, right.
Very simple, very human. It's a very human detail. And then when he gets to the chorus, and then that's why it could be misinterpreted because he says "Born in the USA" over and over again. But originally, I think the idea was like this could only happen in America, and that was meant as a dark, ironic thing.
So something interesting to note here is most of the time when you get to a chorus, you actually go into double time, or you basically start playing twice as much as you were playing before.
Into that.
So let's say the song is. Okay, so
it's almost.
I'm telling you, lose, kick off your Sunday shoes.
Right. Notice how the guitar becomes more active as a walking line.
Everything does. The bass line, do. By the way, starts playing double time. Yeah.
I don't. If you've probably done this a lot. When I used to work on this for a film composer.
Yeah.
And he actually was composing for a network show for years, and every few episodes there was this cover band inside of the show.
Yeah.
And so we would have to do re-records of, we did Fortunate Son, we had to do Africa, we did several songs
where
but because of the way they had to edit it, we couldn't just use the original record and have the actor sing over it. We had to do a re-record and match the record as
right, because you can't get the rights
the rights.
You don't have. You can do a cover.
And a lot of times, Fortunate Son comes to mind by Creedence Clearwater Revival, because we were doing beat mapping. And in the days, if
they didn't have clicks when they
not
were
using
that.
click, so inevitably the band tends to speed up in tempo when it comes to the chorus. You can actually see it on the grid, like speed up and then calm back down.
Or not dB, couple beats per
BPM.
minute.
It'll actually pick up, which is not a bad thing.
No.
Sometimes what a producer may do is so if you are using a click track, they'll grab a tambourine and kind of give it and play a little bit ahead because you want that thing to lift a little bit, that chorus. You want it to shine a little bit.
You want to start playing ahead of the beat.
When we do that, we're now moving into that pop radio realm.
Right. But quite a few songs also do the opposite thing. So they actually play halftime during the chorus.
Okay, so, or what was so innovative about grunge, Nirvana specifically, and the Pixies actually a little bit before them, was Nirvana would sometimes do this kind of opposite thing. They would the verses would be really loud, and
Right.
the Pixies would do this a lot. And then the chorus, "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies is a great example.
Yeah.
Where the chorus just shrinks down in volume
Where is
and,
my
and goes to a whisper. So there's that. Also, or the Nirvana dynamic. Think of just how what you're saying, how like with "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
It's halftime field, double time field. It's not actually double time.
Right. That
Yeah.
verse is the what the drums are doing and the way Kirk's singing
Yeah.
and the way the notes are spaced out compared to once Grohl brings in the chorus with that drum fill, and Kurt, obviously just starts shredding his vocals,
Right.
and you feel that chorus in a big, big, big way.
Right.
So, some of your favorite choruses and what they mean to you, how they affect you. I think it was a really good.
I think it when we're saying lift and we're saying all these things, everybody knows this, but we're talking about the emotional dynamic element of the songs, and it's something you can intimate. You don't even need to know what's going on. You can just feel it, and then you kind of investigate that feeling. Why did that have an
here's
impact?
one that works in a way that there's two that come to mind. "Don't Worry Baby" by the Beach Boys. Very simple, kind of very doo-woppy. It's basically a 1-4-5
Yeah.
in E, and then kind of a A over B, a little bit of a suspension, then fine. And he starts, and then the verse, it has an intro, and then the verse he starts talking about he's a drag racer, right? He races cars, and talking about the car. Now here's a pre-chorus. And she says, "Don't worry, baby, don't worry, baby." We went up a full step in key for the chorus, and he used Brian Wilson uses the pre-chorus as a way he finds a pivot chord between E major and lifts us to F sharp major. What's really telling here is that in the verses, which are in E, he's speaking first person, like his thoughts, his concerns. When it goes up to the chorus,
We're at the event.
she takes over.
Yeah.
And she says, "Don't worry, baby. Everything will be all right. Don't worry, baby."
Right.
Back to E major. So the great ones will really, really use that lift, that pre-chorus as a serious transition. And sometimes in the chorus, we might change who's speaking or point of view. Here's another great one. This is a real treat. "Penny Lane" by the Beatles in B natural. And it's got this really lovely bass voice. So it's B natural. It's like on the 1 chord, to the 4 chord, to the 5. Then it does it again. B minor. Pre-chorus. That tension. "Penny Lane is in my ear and in my eye." We're in A major. We actually went down a full step.
Right.
But his melody, it feels like a lift somehow.
Yeah.
"Penny Lane is in my ear." Putting the third in the bass. It's
Right.
pushing upwards. And he uses a pivot chord of E major.
Yeah.
Sorry, he doesn't use it. He uses the 5 of our original. "Meanwhile, back in Penny Lane." So Paul McCartney in Penny Lane starts in the key of B. That's his verse. He uses B minor as his pre-chorus, the parallel minor,
Parallel minor.
and then uses the pivot chord of E major to go to A major, and his chorus exists there. And then he just kind of slams back to B major to get back to his verse again.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the song, they repeat the chorus. "Is in my eyes, there beneath the blue suburban skies, I saw meanwhile back in Penny Lane is in my ear."
Yeah,
He
there's a
goes
little
up to
bridge.
B major,
Right.
the original key,
And does the chorus.
because he's remembering his childhood, and it's all coming back to him. And actually, the tonica comes back to him as well. So good.
Yeah, so I think there's not as much precedence for that type of a chordal move from a verse to a chorus, which is why that one pretty much stands out.
It does jump out. Yes.
There's not like a whole lot of like moving down a whole step.
No, I know it's
to go to the
it's a
chorus.
really good trick.
Yeah.
It's a really good trick.
It's a very operatic trick. So opera music has a lot of this in it, and classical music has a lot. And so you can hear in the Beatles, I'm not sure what extent, at that point, the fifth Beatle would have any on any
Quite a
of their
bit.
writing. But yeah, but a lot of this is classically music derived.
Great.
And so
Don't shy away from it, folks.
yeah,
Just listen. Just put it on the background. This stuff seeps in.
yeah.
Yeah. But McCartney probably would say he couldn't read or write. It's not like you could give
you
him
don't have to,
a
yeah.
master score from an opera. He's like, okay, I'll do that. But if you just hear this, like, I think we can trick our way into this thing. Now, after this, at some point, a lot of songs have a bridge, something called the middle eight.
Yeah.
And we can go into the history of that. But point is, in pop music, this is usually a bit of a departure. Obviously, we're going to probably use a different chord structure. We might move keys.
Right.
It might just be an instrumental part.
Yeah.
I love
Get the strings in. Yeah.
bring in some strings. It's not quite a solo necessarily. It's just kind of going back to Here, There, and Everywhere by the Beatles. Again, another McCartney thing. We were in G major the whole time. Like you said, we're really just moving up those diatonic chords.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of verses, he goes up a minor third. I want her everywhere. And when she's beside me, I know I need never care. Then back to G major. So sometimes it's nice if you can shift keys maybe in your bridge, and that's a lot of fun. Billy Joel does that a lot.
So let's call those quasi-diminished movements.
What?
So because minor thirds move symmetrically.
Oh, so if you followed it up,
just like this,
you'll read
just like a
diminished run,
yeah,
or augmented
so
ones.
you can move consistently in minor
And
chords. And end up in the
what
same
you're saying is, if you keep moving in minor thirds, you'll eventually get back to where you
Get
started.
back to where you started in a non-diatonic way. So
Right.
symmetrical scales are always non-diatonic, just meaning because they're built from symmetry in a linear fashion instead of step motion.
Accidents Will Happen by Elvis Costello.
That's a great song.
Starts in D major.
Yeah.
Who says we'll wait forever? It's now or never, but to keep you hanging on. The silly champion just says you can't go home without a chaperone. Accidents will happen.
Yeah.
We'll only hit and run.
We call that direct modulation.
Not the only one. So he was in D major, and then all of a sudden he goes to the parallel minor D minor.
Right.
Accidents will happen. We're only hit and run. I don't want to hear it because B flat,
Yeah.
I, C major, know what I've done.
Which normally that would be a flat 6, 7, 1, and it's gone to another modulation.
Then he works, and then he just makes it a D major and loops back around again.
Yeah.
So if you're getting into writing songs, if you really want to, what he's doing there, he's really grabbing the listener's attention by doing that shift in tone and key.
Yeah.
And on the word accidents.
Yeah.
So it's a real smart
Tone painting
technique.
type thing.
Tone painting.
So a great way to get into this, if you're newer to playing or newer to listening music, it's critical listening. So if you start by just sort of, when you're listening to a song, the first thing to be able to do is kind of focus on music when you're listening to it, which can
Makes
be a
sense.
trick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to focus on sports when I'm watching them.
There you go.
So I can see why it'd be hard for people to focus on music. But you kind of just have to sit
wait,
there
how-
and let your ears be the eye.
How is it for you?
Yes.
Meaning, because for me, since I was a kid, even before I was playing guitar or understood theory, I should say, to this day, I don't hear the lyrics well. I don't hear music in that linear
Yeah, that's the
way.
same for me. I usually hear
I'm constantly diagramming. If a song's playing,
it's chords.
it's chords.
Going 1 chord, 6 chords, 1 chord. Try not to sometimes and just enjoy the song, but
It's tough.
Yeah,
but,
it's tough.
but to me, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is how I enjoy it. A
yeah,
song.
I have to really go out of my way to try to get the lyrics down.
Same here. But I think most folks, especially if you're not
They
a
hear
musician,
lyrics.
well, because those are we traffic in words all day.
Yeah.
So of course it's natural that they would
You
hear
can
the
think
words.
in words.
You're thinking in words.
Yep.
Even if you're not speaking out loud, it's like, I need to go water
Yeah.
the cactus.
Why did I park in that spot?
Mhm.
The ticket was very expensive.
This is not my beautiful wife. This is not my beautiful house. Lots of thoughts come to you, you know? Yeah, that's a good one. So
Some of them are very dark, folks.
and obviously now songs will have a musical, like a solo, like a guitar solo, usually happens over the chorus, the chords to a verse or a chorus. I know that's really common in country music.
Yeah.
So I'm diagramming songs for a country gig. You know, I'll kind of write the Nashville number system for the intro, for the verse, for the chorus. If there's a bridge, yes. And after that, I'll just put verse. chorus,
Right.
verse, chorus,
And then anything
solo
that's different.
over verse, or
Right.
solo over chorus, and after
Sure.
that, and now you kind of just find that there's a bit of a pattern.
Yeah. The only time you make a note is if something changes. And there's genre specific constants. Like country songs love to go to a major 2 chord and then 5.
Yeah.
And there's these things that sort of happen a lot. Even Beatles songs do a lot of like stepwise motion with the bass over a single chord, like a
Well, in Penny Lane, it starts on A major, Penny Lane, and then the bass plays C sharp over A major.
right.
Rain is in my ear and in my eye, then D major, so
Right.
it pushes up. That's a
Right.
good example. Yeah.
So you just all of these concepts, understanding them is like a lick of its own. Like when you learn a lick on the guitar, you learn a lick of how to interpret these concepts piecemeal. You know.
Yes.
And you learn one of those licks, like I can hear when the 1 chord, when the 3rd is in the bass, and then you start listening for that more often, and then you just hear it out of the blue, and that's something you know how to hear. And it just continues moving on. It's the same thing with learning about drum patterns or learning about bass parts, or it's all just sort of a lick of you being able to recognize it in a sense that you understand what it is, and then you can recognize when you hear it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Just Roadhouse Blues. It's just got this. It's a simple lick, but Lord, is it effective?
Yeah.
I mean, it establishes so much. Yeah. That's a great.
Yeah.
Love Me 2 Times that's a great lick.
Especially when you think that guy kicked bass in that band. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes, it's well on Roadhouse Blues.
there's an actual bass.
Lonnie Mack
Right.
plays bass guitar, but otherwise, if you hear bass on a Doors record, it's Ray Manzarek's feet on the
Yep.
organ.
Kicking bass, baby.
Kicking bass. It's very gospel.
You gotta go, right?
I gotta go.
Yeah.
I have to be in Laguna Beach very soon. So we're gonna get back to you in the comments over the next few days. I want to hear about song parts. By the way, another fun song to kind of like break down diagram: Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty,
Oh wow, yeah.
because definitely has an intro. Well, has 2 intros in a way. That
Oh yeah.
before we get to
Yeah.
so there's and then the verse is in A major D. Somebody tell me what key. I don't think it has a fix.
It's a Pepsi challenge.
All right, but that's a fun one to diagram as well. Dylan, thank you. We're going to be back here
Rex, thank you.
live next Wednesday, I assume.
Yeah,
Unless you
I
got
think
something.
so.
All right, we'll be back here live 5 o'clock next Wednesday. We'll see you in the comments. Is Daniel going to be back?
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get out of here. We're going to record something really quick for the Patreon kids, and we're going to record our promo now, since now is much later than then. Interlocking guitar parts. That's coming up. Thanks, guys.